We've arrived in Kunlushan, a legendary Imperial Tea Garden. The inscription says, Ancient Tea Garden of the Kunlu Mountain. Kunlushan is located not far from Ningye, north of the famous city Pur. It's the highest mountain in the region. This is the southwestern part of Wuliang Mountain. It stretches all the way from Nanjiang to the west. It's the central mountain of Yunnan. They say that this region has one of the highest numbers of ancient tea trees growing. Some people say it has the most. There are more than 600 hectares of tea gardens here. All the gardens are ancient. The trees are about 200 to 500 years old. Many hundreds of the trees are ancient, called gushu. That's why this place is so well known among tea lovers. This commemorative plaque was installed here in 2013. The height above sea level is 1,650 meters. The mountain itself is more than 2,200 meters. Kunlu can be translated from the Dai language as Bird Mountain. The weather today is cloudy, and tea is not produced because picking tea leaves in such weather is very difficult. You can't do shaigan or sun drying properly. There's no sun, obviously, and drying tea in such weather can last about 3 days. The leaves start fermenting, and the taste changes. The owner of the factory that we work with and I saw that in one of the houses where the leaves are left to dry, that the leaves were fresh. It shows that the producer had picked the tea leaves recently, which is not good at all, unfortunately. In some villages where famous and good quality tea is produced, a tea that is very expensive, and most importantly, the place is very well known, and the local people are used to the attention and interest that tea lovers show. Farmers who want to get money pick tea leaves in any weather and sell it for a very high price. The taste and aroma of such tea is much worse than many cheaper teas. So correct picking is very important for good tea. Gushu leaf picking in particular. The price is extremely high, so the quality has to be high too. Not paying attention to the right technologies of production and at the same time highlighting the origin is totally wrong. But it happens quite often, unfortunately. Here, for example, the leaves are fresh, recently picked. It goes through the drying stage. As I've said, it was picked at the wrong time. This farmer had no other choice. The weather forecasts predict bad weather, so this was their last chance to harvest. Tea that's produced in such weather has a much weaker taste. The only thing left is to rely on the farmer's honesty, that they will sell it for a lower price. This is the first ancient tea tree that we've seen. It's obviously more than 200 years old, more like 300. In all tea gardens, tea trees look different. Even here, the tea buds are very different. A different colour and shape from what we've seen in other tea gardens. We've been to dozens of tea gardens. The trees look different, but it may be the same variety. The bud tastes different. There's a lot of white hairs. It becomes clear when you have a closer look. When you take a fresh tea flush, it has much more white hair than other flushes we've seen. This village is one of the few villages that produces high quality, expensive tea, that has ancient tea gardens, and has preserved the traditional lifestyle. There are many old buildings, and not so many tourists. They repaired the road last year. This was an old Jingu road. This place looks very natural. a village that hasn't changed a lot. Of course, new buildings appear, but this place isn't spoiled by huge numbers of tourists. It's preserved the traditional Chinese village lifestyle. It's great that places like this one exist. This is one of the oldest tea trees in the garden. It's not the oldest one, but it's more than 400 years old. There are many ancient tea trees in this place. It's unique. Wuliang Mountains is special. It's interesting. The leaves of this tree are of a different size, and there are no young buds. They say that the older the tea tree is, the later the young buds appear. So leaf picking starts later. It's true. There's a special term even. It can be translated as gushu picking season hasn't started. Every tea garden has its own atmosphere. You feel different. Here this feeling is really special. The high altitude plays a role, and the garden itself is very big. This garden has a traditional village on its land. There are not so many tourists here, unlike other regions in Menghai and Wuliang. New bushes are still planted here, like this one, Zhaoshu, or small trees. It happens in all tea gardens, where there are a lot of old tea trees. Younger trees are planted to renew the garden. What surprises me the most is that many of the trees heal very badly. In the places where they were broken, for example, fungus appears. Many gardeners from Russia and Europe know how to heal these trees, but in this place they don't do that. I think I know the reason why. It's because Chinese people have a very special attitude to ancient things, ancient plants and buildings, different items with history. They believe that all ancient things should be preserved the way they are. That's why you can often see houses that are falling apart, but nobody touches them or tries to fix it. It has to feel ancient. And it's the same thing with old tea trees. Yes, it's a pity that they die, but still nobody heals them. Maybe that's a kind of innate quality of Chinese people. Don't touch, let it be. This is a well-known Cha Wang Shu, an obligatory thing for any famous tea garden in Yunnan. Wang means king, Shu means tree, and Cha means tea. So it's a king tea tree, and yes, it's the largest tea tree. This one is 500 years old, maybe more. The tree looks great. It has huge branches, but there are many other trees here that are almost as big as this tree. It has an obligatory plaque with the name of the family that owns this tree, with their phone number. You can buy their tea for an unbelievable sum of money. It doesn't necessarily have to be better than the other tea from this place. But the fact that the tea is from this tree can be very important for many. The size of this garden isn't very big, but the gardens of Kunlushan are very big in general. Not all of them are tourist attractions, but the traditional tourist route goes through the village and all the places where ancient trees grow. This tree looks dead from a distance, but when you get closer, you can see that it has big offshoots, and it forms a bush. New life grows from the roots, even if the trunk is dead. Green leaves still appear. Anyway, nobody cuts this tree. They give it a chance. We can't say for sure why it died, but we think it's because of a huge hollow here. The centre of the tree may be rotten, and all the trees covered in fungus. You can easily see that the tree is dying. By the way, this garden is called Imperial because tea from here was picked especially for the emperor. It's a legend, but there are some local verifications. In modern sources that talk about Kunlushan, these gardens are referred to as Imperial. This is an interesting fact about the size of leaves. There's a legend that older tea trees have bigger leaves. Of course, there are some varieties that have bigger leaves. Here and in Laobangjiang, all trees have different sized leaves, but usually Gushu have medium-sized leaves. And here we can compare an old leaf from a tree and a leaf from a bush, from one of the small bushes. Old leaves are not precious at all. Nobody makes tea from them. They're usually used in packaging or design, or they can be used to print a logo and used instead of a business card. The size of the leaves doesn't show the age of the tree. Sergei is with us on this trip. He's the owner of one of our shops in Moscow. Gardening is his hobby, and he's had a look at these trees. Tell us, what can you say? The situation is very bad. The tree is dying, it's covered in fungus. And here, when someone was climbing up the tree, the branch broke, and they didn't try to repair it. Water got inside and the tree started to rot. And with time it got to the centre of the tree and went all the way down to the roots, to the very centre. The tree also started to rot here, so there's almost nothing left. Only bark. So I guess it will die soon. It's very sad. If you look up, it seems to be okay. But obviously the situation is bad. Another rotten hole. Chinese people, as I've already said, don't really look after these trees. They don't try to heal them. You start feeling sorry for these plants. Something that I've noticed is that they choose one tree and say that it's the oldest, the biggest and the most ancient in the garden. Sometimes it turns out to be true, but here there's a huge number of ancient trees. We've come up the hill and seen this one. It's obviously bigger than the previous one and it's more than 400 years old. Trees like this one in Fenking are more than 1,500 years old. Trees that just have one trunk like this are usually more than 300 years old. This one is huge. It has 4 trunks. It's a really huge tea tree. It's lucky. It looks very healthy. There are no holes, so maybe it will live for another 1,000 years and will become like one of the Fenking ancient trees that are 3,000 years old. In Kunlushan, a bit downhill on the road to the Imperial Tea Garden, there's a small plantation that's called Ecological Tea Garden. They don't use fertilizers here. It's 100% organic. It doesn't mean that they use chemical fertilizers in the other gardens, because this is under strict control. It has a good reputation as the purest tea garden. It's very beautiful. The plants are carefully trimmed. There are only bushes here. They created perfect conditions. There's a forest nearby. It's far from the cities, so that's why it's called ecological. They keep up. course they do. The strength of organic tea bushes keeps up with heavy people's weight. I can literally feel the char ki. The energy flows. It's sticking in my back. This tea is obviously great. Everything is okay with the bush. Nothing is damaged. No plants were harmed during filming. Today is April the 2nd. It means that in a couple of days, King Ming Festival will be celebrated, also known as Ancestor's Day. It's connected with tea production. Traditionally, tea picking starts in this festive period. Of course, they started picking it earlier in other provinces, but many people start celebrating now. During this period, people in China honour their ancestors. They visit their tombs, bring gifts and flowers. They clean the graves, burn incense and money to make their ancestors happy. They perform rituals to honour their ancestors. And now, even if it's the 2nd of April, you can already find many people decorating tombs. When we went up the hill, there was nothing here, and now, when we're coming back down, the grave is cleaned and decorated. People ate here. They burned banknotes and left sweets and alcohol. People burn very different things, actually. They can burn houses, cars made of paper, and they believe that this makes their ancestors happy. The Chinese government tried to end this tradition. I mean burning these paper constructions. But you can still see it in many other places in Malaysia and Taiwan. People even build skyscrapers made out of paper. They can be as big as a real car. And they're burned to honour ancestors. We've come down the mountain and we're on the main road that used to go to Jingu. This way the road goes up the mountain. The sign says that the road is 12 kilometres, but it seems to be longer. It goes all the way up to the Imperial Tea Garden. It says Kunlushan, and there are many different tea company advertisements. They are not necessarily connected with Kunlu, but putting them here is very important to attract the tourists' attention. Enjoy your tea.